Okay.
Okay, you're good.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hello. Hello.
Richard Henry.
All right. We have some people who have been here before and others that may be new to us. So let's get started. Here in the audience, we have Debatia and we have Lynn and Les Sinclair. So we have 3 in the audience. We may be getting more sometime during this. So what we're going to do,
That's my dog, sorry.
That's all right. He wants to join in too, huh? Yeah. We're going to do like we have done last couple of weeks, which was a great idea that Robin had, and that is to see what people want to talk about, and then we'll go back and start discussing those things. So Betty, can you start us off? And you're muted.
Muted, Betty.
Hi, everybody. I don't really have anything to say today. I just wanted to join in. So that's all.
Okay, good. All right. Jenny, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Well, I'm pretty sure my dog wanted to talk.
What's his name?
I don't really have anything specific either.
Okay. And is it
Richard Henry.
is it what?
Richard Henry.
Richard, nice to see you. Do you have anything you'd like to talk about?
Not a thing. I just like to listen. So thank you for having me.
Sure. Well, this is going to be an interesting discussion, non-discussion today. Dale, do you have anything?
No, nothing really for me. I'm having my second morning cup of coffee, so I figured that since this is Coffee of the Councilors, it would be appropriate to join in.
Yeah.
So I'll just hear what you all have to say.
Great. Well, I'll give you a little toast of coffee here. Toast with your coffee. Eric, would you like to have a topic to talk about?
Not particularly. It's both myself and Hannah Bush are listening in on my phone.
Okay.
The main thing I just wanted to make sure that you guys are not like the council as a whole is going to make sure that this food and beverage actually does make it onto the ballot in November and doesn't end up getting dragged out and miss deadlines for it. So that's my main thing I wanted to say and talk about.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Greg, how about you?
I'm kind of on the same plane as Eric in terms of here to listen and hear about the food and beverage plans now that things have been pushed off to a vote, and kind of want to know, council's understanding of what's going to happen next, and make sure that it doesn't just disappear.
Okay, good. And is that Jan that's on the phone?
Yes.
Jan, do you have anything?
I am just here to listen right now. Thank you.
Well, we can all just sit here and listen. That'd be great. one great hour of quiet meditation. That wouldn't be bad at all. Lynn, Les, do you have anything?
Well, just like everybody else, I'm interested in hearing what our next steps are going to be on the food tax, prepared food tax. I guess I had a little bit of a different twist. I got to talk to a number of the restaurateurs at the last meeting outside, and there was a lot of conversation about how they really didn't know that they hadn't been advised that this discussion was going on. In fact, I got a little bit of pushback because, well, I'm retired, so I have plenty of time to do this.
They don't understand retirement, do they?
Common problem than I ever considered. And I just kind of wanted to raise the issue of how do we better communicate to the people who need to know? Because the feedback that we got finally at the last council meeting from all of the restaurant folks was really the most overwhelming, consistent feedback that had, even though you had 3 town halls, I don't think you got that much feedback. The whole thing. That's always going to be a problem, no matter what the issue is.
Absolutely.
But mainly, I just want to hear what's the next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I do know that the chamber reached out to the restaurateurs. So there was that, but maybe it doesn't sift down or.
And should the chamber also reach out to the rest of the community? I mean, we're relying on Facebook to communicate things, or the city website, which is horrible to navigate. We're not, I'm sorry, it is. No, I call the office and they'll tell me where it's at. The communication is poor.
Yeah, we're in a what I call a news desert.
Yes.
We're really, we have a weekly, twice weekly, every 2-week newspaper.
And
but there's
pointless. I mean, the way the schedule are. The other thing I want to address is behavior at the city council meeting. Who's in charge of banging a gavel and saying your 3 minutes are up or 5 minutes are up, or no name calling? Behavior, it upsets me to see that behavior. And I think it will make people step back and go, I don't want to be involved, because it's so uncomfortable to be in that situation. And it's not one-sided, it's global. It's just, the city has started, we've got the posters and the call your counselor, there's starting to be a fight. And this is too small of a town to have a fight and everybody walk away unscathed.
Yeah. So we will get to that. Deb, what would you like to talk about?
Well, they're all talking the same language as usual. She talks the same language. I'm so perceptive to energies, and I was like so taken back by that meeting that I had to look it straight in the face and say, this is really tense. And some people may take it as confrontational, but it wasn't. It was addressing what was present at the moment and being conscious of it. There was a lot of hostility in that room. I mean, I worked as a psych nurse, so I know what hostility is. And I felt this, honestly, I'm not going to eat in a lot of the restaurants anymore. I'm bringing in food from Portland. I'm leaving today. It was hostile. And I don't know what jacked that up. Now, the Cannon Beach Gazette says it was them that jacked it up. They said that they put out a notice. So I don't know who was the ringleader in that. And I don't know why that was caused. And I think there had to be common professionalism, and it should have been there, and there was no leadership to address it. It just kind of went wild, and then I felt like I was trying to say what I want, but I could feel this energy coming at my back. And I'm very sensitive to that. But I really want to hear, I'm missing something. So Robin, can you, what I want to know is I want to know how Robin feels about this.
Well, let's before we get into our discussions, Jeannie McLaughlin just joined us, and Sharon is on the line, as well as Betsy. So Jeannie, what would you like? What we're doing is we're kind of, first of all, welcome to Coffee with the Councilors. I think this is your first time here. And what we're doing is kind of cutting down what we want to talk about, and then we'll go back into the discussion. So do you have a topic you'd like to talk about?
Oh, I guess, is it the food and beverage? Is that what
No.
Sounds like food and beverage chat.
It's unanimous.
Nobody brought it up yet. Everybody's had talking about the food and beverage tax.
God knows we need to laugh.
Newport, I guess, is now online.
Yeah.
Today.
And I have mixed feelings. Sometimes I think, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, and yet I still wonder if we could get a visual of all the parking, in our town would be, because I hear there's about 490 or something. That's what I think. Thornburg, first, is it Greg?
Greg Swedenborg. Yeah, he's on the line.
He's on and Greg is with us today. So.
And Sharon's on.
Sharon. So let's.
So yeah, I'm still wondering if there's another alternative, but and also I think I'd like to know more like what Patrick talked about, to really know what the plans are for City Hall, because I don't want them getting sick with mold and whatever it is.
Okay, so let's talk about that in a minute. I want to see what Betsy and Sharon want to talk about, and then we'll get back to the discussion. Sharon, what would you like to talk about today? And you're on mute.
Is Sharon Amber or something?
Yeah. Sharon Clyde.
There. Okay, I'm listening a lot. Of course, I am for the prepared food tax. It's desperately needed. And it's needed immediately. I'm just so surprised that it's being held up. I was at the meeting Wednesday, and I'm just taken back at why the restaurants, some of them don't seem to understand the process of it's just collecting for us like the hotels do. They seem to think that it's going to damage their business, and I don't get that, but that's their opinion and that's fine. But again, I'm interested in seeing why Robin is so against it, or the implementation of it, and why she didn't want to just, or I'm sorry, Robin, you didn't want to just go ahead and let the council make this decision that they've done with all the hotel taxes they've done. And anyway, it's just desperately needed, definitely for the fire district, but the city hall, I've been listening to the need for a sturdy building. Now, the building looks fine. And like one lady said that we didn't need a new building. Of course, I don't know where that came from her, but anyway, the police station, the police department is just, they should not be in there. It is unsafe. It has black mold. It has all of that. And that is an immediate need. And
okay, Sharon,
and I don't understand.
Okay,
but
so
anyway,
we'll get back to that discussion in a minute. Betsy, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, I was just kind of, nodding along while Sharon was talking. I think that the council, by not, I don't know, I've been on the council before. I know it's really tough to have people dislike you. The level of personal animosity that gets leveled at volunteers who are just trying to make a decision for what they think is the best for the community gets colored by not wanting to be disliked. And so I think that's why we've ended up where we are, which is going to have to go to a vote of the people of the registered voters in Cannon Beach. And I think the acrimony is going to be really terrible. I'm really sorry that that's the way this came down. I think there's going to be a lot of added expense for the city of Cannon Beach. First of all, the police probably should be getting into some portables or something safe right away and not waiting until a vote that happens in November. I get it that the restaurant people are upset. I'm sure they have PTSD a lot worse than I do around what COVID has done to upend all of our lives. But I was really sorry, like Sharon, that there doesn't seem to be an understanding of a pass-through tax. I also remember from being on the council that you can have 32 meetings about a subject, and then all these people, pick up their pitchforks and show up at the very last minute, uninformed, unaware of what's happened in past meetings, and that people have thoughtfully and carefully considered everything. And I too would like to just understand, Robin, what your plans are for solving the issues that we have with our infrastructure and our fire department needs, because you don't seem to be interested in, well, it's too late now, I guess, but supporting the council taking that I saw as the responsibility for protecting our community.
Okay, and we have Rick Hudson is on the line as well. Rick, do you have anything you want to say? Rick is our emergency manager, emergency management director. Say that 3 times. Rick, do you have anything? Oh, Rick.
Just his name.
He's being visible.
Well, he's here, but he's not, maybe. Maybe he just wants to be the strong silent type today. Okay, well, let's get started with the discussion and he can join us when he wants to. Robin, you're on the hot seat today, it looks like. Can we start with you today?
I have always believed, and I think I was consistent through the whole discussion, that I felt that it should be a vote of the people. And I'm sorry that the people that Sharon and Betsy and Debbie, you don't agree with my thoughts, but those are my thoughts. And I know that we need to have these things eventually, but I think that the time that it takes for the people to think this through is important. I hear you say that you feel that there's a lot of animosity, but you have to step back and realize that some of the animosity is coming from you as well. And so you need to just kind of measure things and let's see what the people decide.
Does the council get to choose what they do and don't vote on? I don't know how this all works.
It's a decision among the council whether there's a vote or not by the council.
Yeah, and be aware that the council is able to enact the ordinance without a vote of the people.
Does this come to a point in every single decision? There isn't like a rule book that says you have to vote on this and or what type of?
It's rare. Okay. I think it's a very rare situation where we don't either all agree or, don't think it's a good idea. As you listen to Brandon, it was the hardest vote he has ever made. So I think each one of our decisions is decided uniquely for that situation.
Pretty much, especially if an ordinance is going to go into effect, it's going to affect the entire city, or at least the restaurants in the city. That definitely calls for either a vote of the council or the council voting to take it to the public for a public vote. I think everything that comes before us, we vote on usually. Yeah. I other than advisory, good of the order kind of situations where Bruce is telling us what is coming up next or other kinds of decisions, but and they can only be made also in a regular meeting. They can't be made in a work session. We can come to a consensus and say, yeah, we'd like to look at that at a regular meeting and vote on it. But I'd say, do you know of anything that we don't vote on?
I think there's a separation between operations and what council does is policy.
Mm-hmm.
So you vote on most policy issues, and then you set parameters for how staff will conduct business, and that's all done by vote. But I think most of you vote on virtually everything.
Yeah, I was just surprised that it required it. I didn't know y'all could choose to vote on it or put it to the people.
When it's a property tax situation, it goes to the people.
It has to be voted on.
So there are certain things.
Yeah.
This wasn't one of them.
And the vote that is going to be taken in November, and let me know if I'm wrong on this, is an advisory vote. It's not necessarily something that actually will or will not go into effect. It probably
we're going to spend money having the people vote, and it doesn't take effect.
Nancy, I think it does. I think we had talked about making that an advisory vote, but the vote that'll be held as a referral will be it'll be binding.
Okay, so if it doesn't, I guess,
If we drag it to November and vote on it, we come back to this again, guys.
yeah, I guess if it's voted down, then we will probably have to, then we will probably have to go then and ask for a bond measure, which will be raising your property taxes, if that's approved. And if that's not approved, we're dead in the water. So,
And I don't know, and I'm speaking off the cuff I've read stuff and I don't know my facts. The state is looking at enacting a food and beverage tax, is what I read in an article.
the state is?
The state, and what concerns me, it lines up with the hotel tax, that the state enacts it and we get a portion of it. So I don't know if it's true. I did not dream it. I read it, but I can't find it where I read it. So that's a concern of mine, is if you get too far down the road, you wind up.
Greg, do you know anything about that, about state enacting a food tax?
No, I have not heard that at a statewide level or any legislation towards that in the last session. No.
Bruce, have you?
I have not heard anything about that.
Yeah.
I'll find it again. I'll bring it, but
Yeah.
it was on the internet, in a paper or something, and it's.
Must be true.
I have heard, several cities are going down the same road and in different varying degrees of where they are in the process, but not from a statewide level.
The legislature is over for now. There may be a special session come up, but right now the legislature, it has gone home, thank God. And so there won't be, any legislative approved taxes that they haven't already passed in this last session until it meets again. Well, they meet for a little bit of time in the next year for a couple of months. And then the regular session again then isn't until 2023. So, but they could go into a special session, but I'm not sure they would do that for something like this. They might, who knows? But
Who knows?
Yeah.
But for now, I don't think it's an issue.
Yeah, I don't think so at the moment. Jeannie?
What if we could get some of these numbers from Greg and about parking spaces? What if we could start that right away and see if that would give us enough money? I mean, these people have a free beach. I mean, that's wonderful. That our once upon a time governor, made that possible, but there are states that require you to pay to go to the beach. New Jersey is one of them.
Bruce, would you like to talk about that? We have had some parking studies. We're in the middle of a parking study right now. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Isn't it about 490? That's the that I heard.
You hear different numbers because there are some that are marked parking places, say on Hemlock and Spruce. Then you've got the parking lots.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a tube of toothpaste. And that if you make it harder to park in those areas, it goes to the residential streets. And then, so that's kind of the mix on it. So you can have parking, and there's technology that is relatively easy to use as far as being able to get, I've never been able to figure it out, but there is technology that you can use to go ahead and say, well, I'm going to go ahead and park here for so long or whatever it times you. But let me see. The spaces that tend to be counted, like I said, are the ones in the parking lot in the marked spaces, not necessarily the residential ones, or the ones that people parking in the right of way.
But you said before it wouldn't raise enough money, right? Is that what you're?
Well, it depends. If we go to the point that we say every car that parks in Cannon Beach, even if it's down, north of Tolovana, down one of the beach accesses, potentially we could raise that kind of money. But it's going to be, it's going to be expensive. And if you start cutting groups out, for example, business owners, employees, residents, well, that's a lot of the parking. mean, so it's like, do we charge everybody or do we charge certain people more? So I think that it would be, again, there's an awful lot of policy questions that are in it that would tend to bog it down.
And if you did it, you would have to require parking permits for the streets, on the residential streets. Because we were already full.
Right.
And that's where they're going to go. You might as well make money off of them. I got offered money this weekend for my driveway.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised.
Not unusual, actually.
$20.
Wow. How much?
So
$3.
No, 20.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
Did you take it?
No. Reality of it, that was till I could get in trouble. Otherwise, I'd be shooting down the street.
Sounds like a short-term rental to me.
So anybody that's interested in this topic, that just go to the city website and type in Lancaster Labs, which is the consulting firm that did the study, and I think it was 2017. And the PowerPoint is easily attainable. It will tell you exactly how many spots there are, what they measured, when they measured it during the springtime, April and May. And the net is, it doesn't scale. You're not going to make enough money to do the things that you're talking about here in terms of funding the fire department or a city hall or police station. If you can do all that with about 600,000 to 700,000 in revenue on a year, then that's what you're going to get. But you have about a 20% overhead, or a little bit, probably more than that in reality. And it's not the solution for big ticket items. At least that's my opinion. But that information, when people ask about it, it's out there. It's been out there for years on the city website. Just do the search function, Lancaster Labs.
And that's about half as much as what we really need to operate, to do the projects we need to do, including letting the city, the fire district share in the revenue.
Actually, if it was 700 and then minus 20%, we're significantly under what the food and beverage potential, or the prepared foods is.
Yeah.
Do you think we should have?
Let me go up here for a minute. Does anybody want to speak to that, Ginny?
Well, parking, oh, there goes my dog. The only cheap way to do it would be where you do it with your smartphone. And I feel like many of our visitors can't navigate their smartphones that well. But on back to the vote, somebody told me that if we do pass the prepared food tax by a vote, it will take another vote if we want to extend it or if we want to stop it. Is that true, or can the city council just decide to do that?
I can address that.
Yes, please.
That's an excellent question, Jenny. If the voters approve it, then it would take a vote again, another referral to make any changes to it. If the council was to adopt it, the council could make those kinds of changes.
Right. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
So we're back to food and beverage. We are currently looking at what is written is it's a forever thing, not a short-term thing that we have to renew.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And because we want to use part of it for the debt service on a city hall and police station, that'll probably be at least a 30-year debt service, if I'm
Yes.
right on that. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
But is it now just food?
It's only food.
It's just food, just food.
But will that complicate? I mean, is there software that can help them?
There should be software. Deb did some research and apparently the restaurants are using what they call a square. And apparently that.
Yeah, but Ashland and Yahoo are doing food and beverage.
Yeah.
So I don't know about just the food, but I'm sure it can be done. And most of them are saying they're doing Square, which is the easiest way.
Okay.
And it's the most cost effective.
Well, wouldn't you raise more money if you did food and beverage? I mean, except
The attorney advised not to do food and beverage.
Yeah.
There's something called the CAT tax, which is, anybody remember what the acronym was?
Corporate
Anyway,
activities tax.
Yeah, corporate.
Yes, it's a tax of over $1 million in revenue. Anything over $1 million, you pay whatever the percent is. And in imposing that, that's on total sales. And so when they adopted the CAT tax, they said that the state had done that, and so nobody else could do taxes on total revenues. And so if we were to do food and beverage, potentially somebody could challenge it, saying, well, you're taxing their total revenues, because that's what they make their money on. So that's why by taking the beverage out, then we know we're not charging 100%. What that's
make more money, I guess.
Yeah.
Is it alcohol?
No,
Well, no, we can't tax alcohol, but that
it already taxes alcohol.
But the situation that you have when you are like with, people say, well, what about a sales tax? Again, you have to find a way to, so that everybody across the spectrum. So if you have somebody that sells, ice cream, and you have somebody else that sells leather goods, and somebody else sells, I don't know, whatever it is, you have to have something exempted from every one of those businesses, so you're not charging 100%. And so that's where that gets really complicated as far as a sales tax, and let's have everybody kind of deal with it. That's where the problem comes in. What do you take out from the ice cream store that matches what you've got in the leather goods?
So Bruce, can I make a comment on that? Because with all due respect, that's completely wrong. And the same attorney that said we couldn't do this is advising you that you can't do the beverages. And I talked to Senator Betsy Johnson, who put me in charge in front of Chris Allenbach, who is with the Revenue Department of Oregon. And he says that this is completely wrong and that you can do that. So I would really wish that the city or the city council or whoever makes these decisions pushes back on that a little bit, because you're basically leaving about 20 some odd % on the table if you don't do the beverages. And you've got multiple cities that do this. And you've got the Department of Revenue saying it's absolutely, it has nothing to do with the CAT tax, because that's a tax on revenues, not on sales. And I just think you'll get a different answer if you ask the question differently.
Okay.
Something to look at.
I'll send you the last email I had from Chris Allenbach. He's the Department of Revenue of the state of Oregon saying that it's fine to do food and beverage. So.
And that's what Yachats and Ashland are doing.
Well, they, of course, enacted their laws before the CAT tax went into effect, so they're grandfathered in. But yeah, that would be interesting. I'd like to see that information from the Department of Revenue.
I will send it again.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, if you would copy me on it, because I want to forward it to Ashley and have her follow up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, Ray. It's good.
Because I've heard a couple of espresso people saying that sounds complicated when you have to separate and everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
Espresso people.
Yeah, we've heard that too, so. Anything more about that?
I wanted to go back to parking for just a second. I had a comment to make about both enforcement and the strain that parking places on, or doing any kind of restrictions on parking would add to smaller businesses and other businesses around town and houses and stuff like that. And kind of like to go with that is like a story. So every Tuesday in the summer is literally the worst day of the week for us here at the Seabreeze Court. We're 1 block away from public parking, and when the farmers market's going, it takes us, and it's a lot of extra work to keep people that are trying to visit the farmers market from parking in our parking lot. So the city takes away X number of parking spots for the market and then doesn't do anything to mitigate those spots. And they have an extra draw to town, and then that put the strain on us. So that I see that as analogous to putting a fee on parking. So we would have that to contend with. The businesses that are around parking that have their own lots, that the parking around them is going to then be metered or charged for however it's managed. And then there's the additional strain on law enforcement and the parking aides, the information aides to manage that. So there's some hidden costs that they've been discussed a little bit, but Chief Schemerhorn really hasn't, I haven't heard his take on kind of more of a dollar value of what it would cost to manage that level of enforcement.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Because it's not just getting the revenue from parking, it's paying the overhead to manage it and monitor it.
So you
So,
said 20% it would cost to enforce it.
My name was Greg, and Greg has done a lot of research on it.
Yeah, Greg.
Did you say 20%, you thought?
Well, I mean, that's
20% is management. That's not the enforcement. The enforcement for other areas costs additional up above and beyond the 20% that it would cost for the actual management itself. Enforcement and management are two entirely different animals when it comes to parking.
yeah.
Greg, what do you say to that?
No, I mean, Eric's absolutely right. In fact, so I use the software system that's in Portland, Parking Kitty. If anybody's been to Portland and paid for their parking, it's the same software that I've done research with, and it's being used in Seaside and Astoria right now in a couple of private lots. That solution, if you read their white papers, they typically say anywhere between 20 and 30% on management, and enforcement's a whole different animal, like Eric said. In fact, they have enforced part of the software has like an enforcement portion of the software that the police department can use that taps into the DMV, so you can do tickets and things like that. I have no idea what that would entail, but it's definitely, that's more man hours enforcing. So it's it's a component, but they're two separate components. When I say 20%, that's just having the software, having having someone calculate the money and the management aspect of it.
And you have to have enforcement. I don't know how many of the tickets that get written are on the ground. They're not coming back to Cannon Beach. So
You've seen parking tickets on the ground?
Really?
yeah. And so, you've got to have, I don't know how that works, but it makes sense. You contact the DMV and say they have a ticket here. But yeah, but you're not going to be here for another year.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So you're saying 20 to 30% for management
and question mark for enforcement.
We don't know how much it would cost for enforcement, because first of all, we don't know exactly how we would go about doing it eventually. And then how many officers it might take to monitor it and enforce it. And, so we're not there yet in terms of knowing the cost.
I think it's $6,000 for a weekend that Seaside made.
I have no idea what they do or what they spend it on and what they need. I mean, a lot of the cost is going to be probably dependent on what we need, and also what the market bears. So we haven't gotten to that point yet. And I don't think we can compare ourselves to Seaside in terms of how they do it.
I wonder, once we find out more about the food and beverage thing, that's correct, should we have a meeting with just the restaurateurs so they can understand a lot? Because you know what, there are some employees, I'd rather not say the name of the place where I talked to these employees, but they had the wrong information and were told somehow that this money was going to go to the hotels. And I said, no, that's not. And so I went back and I got the little, the ci.cannon/beach, anyway, the website, and told this young lady, look up that and find the notes under the meeting. It was July 6th. And, but she says she was working so much. She was working 12 hours a day. And she didn't have much time to do anything but eat and sleep and work. And for 5 days a week.
Yeah.
It's a lot because they couldn't find enough employees.
Yeah.
But her whole the whole establishment had the wrong information. And so these young people need to, somehow we need to get to them too. I kind of wonder what's the percentage of people who work with the restaurants, you know, from bussers to dishwashers to whatever, servers,
Yeah.
all that, hostesses.
Yeah. I think one thing we wanted to,
There's a lot of people, and I wonder if very many of those people got the wrong information.
right. I think one thing we want to talk about, which is something that people brought up, is what do we do now? Now that we're going to have a vote, how do we get the information out? How do we get people to participate in that decision? Bruce, would you like to address that at all?
There was a question.
Yeah, there's a lot has to be done. I sent an email to the council, I think it was on Friday, because it's going to be a joint effort. It involves the fire district and the city, that they have to get together and decide on a message, because then everything from there will fall from whatever the message is. And then it's a, I don't like to use the word campaign, and I don't like to use the word sell. I mean, to me, what the city and the district has to do is explain. People are smart, they'll figure it out, and they'll know if you're trying to snooker them. So you have to put together materials that will explain what it is that you're trying to do. You have to decide, is it going to be pamphlets? Is it going to be direct mail? Whatever. And there's another complication that the city can't spend any money on this advocating. We can send money out to explain. I think we can do that. Just factually, it's, you know, XYZ. But anything saying that, you know, hey, it'll be great for the fire department and, you know, good for the police or something like that, that's more advocacy. And so,
Just the facts, ma'am?
yeah, it is. It's a just the facts, ma'am. No, it's to the point that if somebody wants to challenge anything that we do, one of the things that they can challenge is whether or not we use funds or city assets to advocate. And so to kind of counter that, or to put the city in the best position, you can send all of your information, everything that you're going to do, to the Secretary of State's office. And before the election, they will review your materials, and then they will send back and they'll tell you what they think, you know, the flaws are. And if you fix the flaws and you send it back in, then it takes, you know, maybe 3 weeks to hear back from them. Then if somebody sues, they're kind of working with you and saying, oh no, I'm sorry, your defense is, we sent everything to the Secretary of State and it was all approved. So it's worth taking that time, but it does take time. And so we have to decide the message, have to decide how we're going to go ahead and get the information out. And somebody has to, you know, if there's brochures, has to be prepared, all those kind of things, signs. So there's an awful lot to be done. And there's they do not want staff to be involved in this at all, to the point that if a staff member is seen as advocating, then whatever process it is, I don't know if it's ethics or court or whatever, but you are totally on your own. The city cannot defend you, anything like that. So I will ask council to be very careful as far as what we do from a staff standpoint. And there is a start date for that. And that will be August 13th in all likelihood. But it starts on the day that the council submits submits the resolution with all the election language on it. Once that's submitted to the Clatsop County Supervisor of Elections, then staff absolutely cannot be involved. And then also there's the fundraising issue. So all of those things have got to be sorted out. And
so does this mean that between next council meetings in a week, is it? And the 13th of August, the city can help put together the statement?
Oh, no, they can put together the statement, you know, even after they can work on statements. The benefit, the cutoff on the 13th is that staff can't be involved at all with advocacy. Neither can the council can, I want to be careful, the council can probably individually, but they can't use any resources. For example, when we were talking about it the other night, Sam said, well, if we put together brochures, can we come down here and copy them? And the attorney's answer was no, because you're using city resources to advocate.
Just opinion, we've got to get them in the mailboxes because there are too many people here that don't do the internet. That if they have a phone, you don't know their phone number. I think the broadest reach is the post office.
Deb?
We already got this PAC committee together. We have an attorney and several young people we're going to invite if they want to join. There's at least 12 of us. So we will fundraise. We will go door to door. We will do it all. And the city doesn't have to be involved at all. And we will speak for you.
Oh, yeah, and that's good. And a PAC can do it. And I think that there's an auxiliary or something. And Greg, what's the name of the kind of the support group for the fire district?
The fire auxiliary?
I guess it is auxiliary. Yeah. The auxiliary is separate enough from the district.
The association.
Okay. Yeah, but regardless, they are probably separated enough that they can do a similar thing. But the fire district board cannot. So
with the fire auxiliary then. Eric had a question. Eric, he had a question about, remember your question, Eric? I thought it was really easy.
Well, I do have a couple questions. If Eric's, go ahead, Eric.
Eric had a question about making sure this goes to election, right?
Oh, no. Well, that was the thing I initially said, but a few moments ago, I wanted to address the concern. Somebody asked, or maybe it was a question that either you, Nancy, or Robin brought up of how to get people involved. And I think a lot of the hesitancy from businesses and people like my wife and I that are ridiculously busy is that generally things that the city council does get put off and delayed, and there seems to be no urgency to actually getting anything done. This has followed like a normal track for, actually it's gone really slow for things in terms of government, but this is something that is actually making progress towards something. And it's very surprising for the other businesses in town that haven't been involved to actually see something making progress. So when something's making progress, it's now all of a sudden it's scary, but it's caused them to now want to get involved. So I think that from here all the way through November, you're going to have a lot more involvement, especially from the restaurant community and other businesses that may or may not be affected, either positive or negatively, from implementing a tax like this. So I think just continuing with the messaging that you've sent out through Facebook, through the emails, these are the meetings that are coming up. I think those will be more effective from here until the election, just for discussion purposes, just because now people see this as an actual thing that's going to happen.
That's a good point.
It's going to be voted on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And what about Orla? What's talk to me about Orla?
Well, Les had a question here.
Well, so one of the things that has kind of bothered me about this whole thing for a long time was that assuming that you grant that we have the real needs, and I think everybody generally has said, yeah, we understand, we need more money. The options for the prepared food tax versus the property tax penalize such different groups. There's really not even a lot of overlap between the two. You know, I mean, I know that there are some restaurant owners that don't live in Cannon Beach, maybe not many, haven't done a count. Most of the staffs, unfortunately, can't afford to live in Cannon Beach. So they really don't have a lot of vested interest in the property tax issues. Just like as a property owner, I'm not that interested in the sales tax piece of it, right? I mean, I'm going to pay when I eat out, but it's not the same thing. How do we have that discussion? Because like you say, if the food tax gets voted down, then all we've got left is Isn't that a conversation that ought to be going on now? Because it seems like it's okay just to look at the food tax and weigh it on its own merits. But I don't know that everybody's thinking about what has to happen next.
Yeah.
We can't be dead in the water.
And that's why I keep bringing it up constantly. I think there is a general misconception. If property taxes go up, even if it's true that the restaurant owners live out of town, they're still going to have to pay property taxes on their restaurants. And even if the staff lives somewhere else and doesn't live in Cannon Beach and that isn't affected by their property taxes supposedly, if the property taxes go up on the restaurants, that means that the owners are going to have to pay more. They're going to have to find a way to cut costs. Now, what does that mean for the staff? And I don't know. Now, one restaurant owner told us, well, he could write off his property taxes. Well, good. I'm glad he can, but the residents can't necessarily write off their property taxes. Even if you're a staff member and you're living, if you can find an apartment here in Cannon Beach or find a duplex or even a rental home, property taxes are going to increase. Costs for that property owner are going to increase. How is it going to affect those staff people? So they will be affected if property taxes go up one way or the other. So, I mean, it's not a toss-up as far as I'm concerned. I still say that the food tax is the best way to go because it brings in revenue from the day trippers and from the overnighters and 96% of our visitors and only 4% of our residents, according to our study. So it's, I think, much more beneficial for us to go in that direction than to try to raise property taxes.
For the locals.
The locals, because again, the residents are bearing the cost of the projects that we need to have done instead of spreading the burden out. I hear a lot of going on here, Becky.
Yes. There's another aspect in that if the food and beverage doesn't pass, then the city doesn't have a capability to assist the fire district.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they can go and put something in like a 5-year, like what they have now. But what they're trying to do is, part of what they're trying to do is to bring people on. And for example, we don't have a fire marshal. And that's important for, all the businesses, insurance and all these other things. And also it's a public safety issue, but we don't have that skill set or somebody to do that. Well, it's hard to go ahead and bring somebody in with the right skills, maybe 2 years from now and say, well, I can pay you for 3 years, but then we really don't know. There'll be an election and people will decide whether or not we continue with these services. So that's part of the benefit of the food and beverage tax is that if we can give the money to the fire district, they've got some sort of a guarantee that these funds are going to continue on as opposed to having be a 5-year process. And I think that we pay at least a part of the chief's salary on a 5-year interim. It has to be voted again for that to happen.
Yeah, I think that's
huge. And
Yeah.
we need an ambulance here.
Yes, and that's who he's trying to get.
That wasn't brought up at this last meeting.
I think Deb brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he is.
Bob brought it up.
I know that Mark, that's one of the things, and I know that Mark is talking to medics or whoever the name of the company is to have, I guess there's 2 or 3 ambulances, well, maybe a 4th ambulance, but have it stationed here. That is huge. I can't tell you. I mean, you folks know how big that is, but it's those kind of things, may or may not happen without doing this.
Well, I'm really concerned. Robin, can you address this? Because maybe if you're seeing that, I'm really concerned for the fire chief. And I'm concerned for the police chief. And I'm concerned for the city hall if they have an earthquake, a minor one. What's your opinion? I mean, what do you see as a solution to all of this?
I'd rather talk to you offline.
I've tried to talk
right
to you.
now.
No.
I have a meeting to go to in 5 minutes, and so I'm going to have to leave shortly.
But you're not going to call or talk to me about it.
You're kind of. I'd like to have a discussion with you instead of in public.
Well, I think some other people want to know too, what we can,
Yep.
Exactly.
so I'm not the only one. I'm just voicing concerns.
Okay, next meeting, I'll be happy to
Yeah, but that's too
talk to
long.
you about it.
See, we delayed this too long. You have 5 minutes.
I think Robin's given us the answer. Thank you. And I know that Greg wanted to talk.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was basically my question as well. But really, you know, if this was brought up to a vote again, or I guess a motion in a future council meeting, could it pass if voted, or is there kind of a double jeopardy kind of thing? I don't know the policy. I mean,
I can address that.
Great.
Okay, the way that the voting works is that if someone on the side that prevails, so if there's a 3-2, excuse me, and Nancy, Robin and I are the 3, then one of us can bring it up for a revote. But if neither one of the 2 can do that. So they can't ask for it. If one of the 3 wants to, it can come back up again.
okay. And then on that, you know, the council made their decision, it's going to a vote. You know, there's been conversations about people being involved and getting the word out. You know, I don't know how many meetings that we've had on this, but I think if you're going to be involved and you're going to hear, you know, pay attention, the word is out there. You know, I guess what came up in the last meeting, I lost my train of thought there, sorry. Came up in the last meeting, we're putting a blue ribbon committee together, and a committee to do exactly what, I'm not sure. Are there any plans to do that?
No.
And what is important to the committee? Are they looking to just find a revenue source or get the day trippers to chip in or what? Because there's only 2 ways to have non-residents pay. And one is lodging tax and the other is food and beverage tax. I guess parking would be a third. And I mean, there are no other solutions. Nobody's going to come up with anything different. So I don't know why there's a hesitancy to do something.
Greg, there was talk, not last meeting, but the meeting before that, about whether or not a blue ribbon committee should be established. There was no discussion about that last meeting, so I think it's, I don't think it's, I mean, because the vote on the council has been to take it to the people in November. I don't know that a blue ribbon committee at this point would be a real asset. I think somebody's got to make a decision before if the decision on the vote. Now, I'm speaking just for myself. I have no idea what the rest of the council would want to do. But if the decision in November is to not do a food and beverage tax, then maybe a blue ribbon committee might be formed. Again, I have no idea how the rest of the council feels.
That's how I envision it too.
Okay.
It would at that point become something that we would need a group
Possibility,
to assemble
yeah.
and help.
But but a blue ribbon committee needs to be impartial.
Just a minute, I've got 3 people talking at one time. Lynn?
Well, I don't want to go there, but a blue ribbon committee should be impartial and professional, and we don't have that in this town.
Yeah. And we've
We
had,
have to go outside if this comes up, because we see it, no one's impartial.
yeah, that's true. And I think that's why it needs to wait until after the November
I
election.
always have noticed that we try to get a committee together that is not weighted one direction.
Right.
Everyone's going to have an opinion.
But I'm on the committee right now that supposedly is weighted with the community, and I will tell you, the lines are down the middle. You don't, all you do is frustrate the committee members and come to no resolution.
Are you talking about the public works?
Nope.
Okay, because I was thinking that group isn't selected for weight, it's a volunteer.
So it's a good idea. I don't think it's implementable in this small of a town with everything that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing people I'm normally on the same side of the fence with, they're like you, they're going a different direction and we're all, it's hard. This is hard. I don't want it to ruin any relationships.
Well, I think we're beyond Blue Ribbon Committee at the moment. I think
Yeah.
we're into November vote.
Yeah.
And
Can you make, okay, this is a stupid question, the answer is no, I'm sure. But can it be multiple choice? You want property tax or you want, okay.
No, now you can put more than one
Let's
question.
get this over with, guys.
No, they're very specific. There can only be one question that's put before you. It may be possible to say, if this one doesn't pass,
Automatically, something happens.
no, because then it's a second question, I think, but maybe a second vote. So you can vote. So you've got something in place. If this one doesn't work, I don't know if that's even possible, but that's.
I just don't think people realize the consequences of being dead in the water.
Right, because what you're saying is if we have to vote on a property tax, then it should be on the same ballot.
No.
It can be on the same, and now we're splitting terms here. It can be on the same ballot because there can be multiple questions on a ballot. But what it is you can only have one question in each one of your ballot items.
Measure.
A ballot measure, thank you.
Yeah.
If we don't, if the food and beverage goes down, then we're gonna have to redo another vote for the property tax?
Right.
Oh, well, that's, and then what happens to the fire department?
well, that's the question.
Well, the fire department, their only option at that point would be to start working in 5-year increments. And I think they have 2 of them in place now.
Yeah, they would have to seek a bond measure for them or a bond measure for themselves
Okay.
as
Gotcha.
a separate district. So they would have to go to the voters themselves. We couldn't do that for them.
And they'd have to do that way down the road when they need money now?
I think the next election would be May, would be a special election in
Yeah,
May.
'cause I mean, they're in dire, my husband's looked into it and they're not in good shape.
Yeah.
Safety wise.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we are already past 11 o'clock. I'm going to take 1 or 2 more comments if that's all right with you and.
Can I make one comment?
Sure, Bruce.
It's something, I want to clarify something on the police department. We did an air quality survey at this whole building. And we found what might have been black mold a long time ago. We do not currently have black mold. The air quality issue, well, there's several other air quality issues. One is that, see why our doors are open and we don't have meetings that last too long in this room is because we don't have any air circulation. We have several pockets where the CO2 is really high and also volatile organic compounds. Now we've put in filters. I think there was one in this room. We had done some filters and things to put in, but where the problem or my concern is in the police department is that they are working on biological evidence, drug evidence. We have same kind of materials in a room there, and it's all in the air. So if you have a professional department, you have exhaust fans and you have places where you can go and work on these kind of things. Until recently, we had people working on biological evidence, drug evidence, and eating their lunch in the same space. So what's happening is all this really bad stuff from an air quality is in those rooms, and the rooms in this side are connected.
I'm just, just having a hard time wondering, don't people care about this? I mean, I'm like, I feel really sad about this.
Well, I think it goes to the point that Lynn made earlier. We don't have a good way of bringing out the information. We have a newspaper where the main reporter that works for the newspaper lives in Kansas City. Never been to Cannon Beach as far as I know. The paper comes out twice a week, or excuse me, every 2 weeks. I keep thinking about that. That's when I used to do it, every 2 weeks. So we really have no real news source And I know I try to put out information on my Facebook as balanced as I can make it, or as neutral as I can make it, to tell you when the meetings are coming. So if anybody wants to be a friend of mine on Facebook, I could do that. But, and then we have the website, city website, but people don't really think about going to the city website. You get busy, you do things, you're not thinking about where you can get the information, or even if there is information to be gotten. So people don't think about the city website. We can't use the community bulletin after August 13th to talk about this because it'll be advocacy.
Nancy, I will get the word, just like I did with fireworks. Okay, fireworks worked, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I got the word out, right?
Yep.
I will get the word out now if I have to go door to door, okay? With flyers, which we will make, okay?
Yeah.
And we
Do
did
that.
it. And the Sinclairs were involved with a grassroots community of, people like them and people who are on this thing. We will make it happen.
Okay.
So and we'll use those sources like Cannon Beach Gazette and we'll all of these, but it's Sam was on panel 6 and he said, gee, I don't know how it happened. Well, what do you mean you don't know how it happened? How do you know? Why don't you know? I mean, it's like, how can you know that? There was 500,000 people it went out to. But this community, 1,100, easy piece of cake.
It's not 1,100, it's almost 1,800, by the way.
Registered voters, 1,100.
Registered voters, yeah.
1,100. That's all we care about, right?
Okay, Jeannie?
If we know for sure that the parking really won't bring in enough revenue, and the only alternative is the property tax levy going up and all that. Well, through the mailing, if we could have some kind of bullet points and just have really simple advantages, disadvantages of the two things, the food. Is it just food or?
Well,
it's not gonna be
we won't.
It's just food, okay.
Newport hired a consultant.
And do it through the mail in time, but simple, so that.
Yeah, it's got to stay
people
simple.
Don't have to take very much time, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes the most to read all
Yeah.
this.
They say that when you get a flyer in the mail,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that it's as simple as being able to read it between the time you get it in the mail and you put it in the wastebasket. So that message has to get across. That's
Newport did hire a consultant to get the word out.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a sign in the post office.
I thought about a bulletin board in the
Or
post
something.
office because everybody has to go get their mail.
We put a lot of stuff up in there.
Yeah, we post our notices.
So
on
that's
the
how we did it with the
post
fireworks.
office.
I bought a new bulletin board.
Okay, so I am going to, we're about 10 minutes past. Anybody who hasn't spoken, do they want to say anything now?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, Dale?
Okay, I'd like to know who will be able to vote on this? Will it be all the people that are within the fire district or simply the citizens of Cannon Beach?
Citizens.
And is it first and second?
First?
Citizens. It'll only be citizens because it's a city initiative. And it's only people that are registered voters.
Registered voters of Cannon Beach.
Thank you.
But not, the district does go outside of them.
Does that include second homeowners too?
No, if they're registered to vote in Cannon Beach, yes. If not, no.
100 people.
If they live in Portland and they're registered in Portland to vote, then they can't vote in Cannon
They
Beach.
have a choice. They could change their.
Yeah, they could change the registration if they want to, sure, within a certain amount of time,
You
yeah.
have to be careful because where you vote has to be your primary home.
Yeah.
You can't bounce back and forth.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Mhm.
So yeah, the messaging is what's important and that's what I'm gonna need.
Anybody else? We never did hear from Rick. Hey, Rick.
He doesn't always hear.
Rick's not there.
I think Rick's computer is with us.
Yeah, I really
That's your Rick is.
heard from Rick.
All right. Anything else? Okay, then I'm going to thank all of you for joining us today and even the silent ones. And Please, if you're interested in supporting the tax or not supporting the tax, please get involved because we want as much involvement as possible. And help us get the word out one way or the other. We would really appreciate that. And we will see you next month at Coffee with the Councilors, third Monday of the month.
Oh, I see. It's the third.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nancy.
All right.
I'm so sorry.
Thanks, folks.